2 weeks before my wedding, the woman who betrayed me with my own brother texted me. She said, "Everything isn't what you think." So I met her. And what happened next destroyed her, not me. 2 weeks before my wedding, the past reached out and knocked on my phone screen. I was sitting at the kitchen counter, scrolling through emails, half listening to my fiancée humming in the bedroom as she got ready for work. Everything in my life felt finally calm, the kind of calm you only appreciate after surviving chaos. Then my phone vibrated. At first, I didn't recognize the number. But when I opened the message, my breath caught. From Marissa. I hadn't seen that name in 6 years. My stomach tightened instantly, like my body remembered something my mind had tried very hard to forget. The message was short. "Ryan, I need to see you one last time. Please. Everything isn't what you think it was." I stared at the screen, feeling my heart beat in my ears. 6 years of silence. 6 years of nothing. And now, this. My fiancée, Lauren, walked into the kitchen just as I locked my phone. She's a corporate legal consultant, calm, composed, and devastatingly intelligent. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. Her presence alone makes everything feel grounded and real. I never imagined I'd find someone like her after what happened to me. But here we were, 2 weeks away from our wedding, and suddenly the past was clawing at the door. 6 years ago, Marissa and I were supposed to get married. Everything was ready. The venue was booked. Her dress was hanging in the spare room. My suit was pressed and waiting. Our families had flights booked. Friends were texting about hotels and bachelor party plans. We had been together for 4 years, and I truly believed I knew her better than anyone alive. I was wrong. The night before the wedding, I realized I had forgotten to bring the backup wedding band to the hotel where I was staying with my groomsmen. The ring was still at the apartment Marissa and I shared. No big deal, I thought. Quick stop. Grab the ring. Go back. I let myself into the apartment around 10 in the evening. The lights were on. I assumed Marissa had friends over, last-minute nerves, champagne, laughter, all the usual pre-wedding chaos. Then I heard her laugh. Not her normal laugh. It was softer. Intimate. A sound I thought was only meant for me. I walked down the hallway toward the bedroom and opened the door. Marissa was in our bed with my half-brother, Caleb. They weren't scrambling to hide. They didn't look surprised. They looked resigned. Like people who had been living with a secret long enough to know this moment was inevitable. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, watching my entire future collapse in silence. Caleb started talking. I don't remember what he said. Marissa pulled the sheet to her chest, crying my name again and again. Then she said the words that burned into me forever. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "But I never wanted to marry you. I wanted him. I always have." The wedding was the next day. And I was never meant to be the groom. I didn't stay long enough to hear their excuses. I turned around and walked out like my body was moving on instinct, like if I stayed 1 second longer I'd either break something, or break myself. The hallway felt too narrow. The air felt thick. I remember the doorknob being cold in my hand, and then the elevator ride down feeling like it lasted a lifetime. When the doors opened, I stepped into the parking lot and just stood there, staring at my car like I wasn't sure it belonged to me anymore. I sat behind the wheel without starting the engine. My hands were shaking, but my face was dry. I didn't cry. Not because I was strong, because my mind couldn't even find the correct emotion. It was like the part of me that reacts had been unplugged. I looked at my phone. There were messages from my friends at the hotel, jokes, reminders, don't forget the ring, and someone sending a meme about marriage being the end of freedom. I almost laughed. Almost. Then I did the only thing I could do. I started deleting my future. By midnight, I called the wedding venue and canceled everything. The woman on the phone sounded startled, like she'd never heard those words said the night before a ceremony. She asked if there was an emergency. I told her yes. I didn't explain. By 2 in the morning, I emailed everyone who had been invited. I kept it clinical and short. The wedding was off due to unforeseen circumstances, and I would handle reimbursements for travel costs. I didn't name names. I didn't give them a story to pass around like a piece of candy. But I knew people would still talk. They always do. By sunrise, I had packed 2 suitcases. I grabbed essentials on autopilot: clothes, laptop, chargers, paperwork, a few items from the bathroom. I walked past photos of Marissa on the wall like they were pictures of someone else's life. At some point I caught my reflection in the mirror. I didn't recognize the man staring back. By noon, the day that was supposed to be my wedding day, I was on the highway. I didn't drive to a friend's house. I didn't drive to my father's place. I didn't drive to anyone who could ask questions or tell me to calm down or think about it. I drove 3 hours north to Briar Falls, a city I'd only visited twice, where my college friend Nate had been begging me to join him in building a small tech company. He'd called it a gamble, but a smart one: software that solved project scheduling problems for construction teams. I didn't go there because I believed in a dream. I went there because I needed distance. I blocked Marissa on everything: phone, email, social media. I didn't want a single apology. I didn't want a single explanation. I didn't want to hear her voice and risk my brain doing what brains do, trying to soften something that should never be softened. Then I blocked Caleb. Cutting him out felt like cutting out rot. But it came with a consequence I hadn't even fully processed yet: my father. Caleb wasn't just my half-brother. He was my father's golden child, the son from his second marriage, the one who could fail upward without consequences. The one who was always defended. Always protected. And sure enough, when my father found out what happened, he took Caleb's side. He called me dramatic. He told me I was overreacting. He said something disgusting, something about men making mistakes and family being family. That was the moment I realized it wasn't just Marissa I was leaving behind. It was everyone who expected me to swallow betrayal to keep peace. So I left them all. The first year in Briar Falls was hell. I worked 18-hour days with Nate because when I stopped working, I started thinking. And when I started thinking, I started drowning. But somewhere around year 2, things began to shift. Not because the pain disappeared. Because I got tired of being a victim in my own story. And for the first time since that bedroom door opened, I started building something that was mine. The first year in Briar Falls nearly broke me. Not in a dramatic, movie scene way, but in the slow, grinding way that comes from waking up every morning with a chest that feels too tight and a head that won't stop replaying the same questions. Where did it start? How long had it been happening? How could someone who said she loved me do that? I buried myself in work because silence was dangerous. Nate and I were building a construction management software platform out of a rented office with stained carpets and humming fluorescent lights. At first, we were just 2 exhausted guys drinking cheap coffee and begging contractors to try our program. Most said no. But a few said yes. And those few started seeing results. By the second year, companies were calling us instead of the other way around. By the third year, we were on a regional list of fastest-growing startups. By the fourth year, we had 3 offices, 40 employees, and real contracts that paid real money. Somewhere along the way, the constant ache in my chest softened. Not because I forgave what happened, but because I built so much new life on top of the ruins that the ruins stopped owning me. That's when I met Lauren. She came into my life through a contract dispute. One of our subcontractors had breached an agreement, and Lauren represented the opposing firm. She walked into the conference room with calm confidence, shut down sloppy arguments, and held me accountable for every clause we had overlooked. After the case settled, I asked her out to dinner. She said no. I asked again 2 weeks later. She said no again. The third time, she finally said yes, and later admitted she only agreed because I had been persistent without being entitled. I didn't guilt her. I didn't push. I didn't pressure. I simply stayed consistent and respectful. We've been together 2 years now. She knows everything about Marissa and Caleb. She's seen me on the quiet days, especially the anniversary of the night I lost my old life, when my voice gets softer and my eyes avoid mirrors. She never told me I needed to heal faster. She never demanded forgiveness from me. She simply stayed beside me, steady, patient, present. 2 months ago, I proposed. She said yes. We planned a small wedding. Close friends. No family chaos. No forced smiles. Just people who truly supported us. And then the message came. 6 years after disappearing from my life. Marissa's name reappeared on my screen. Ryan, I need to see you one last time. Everything isn't what you think it was. I showed it to Lauren immediately. We don't keep secrets, especially not the kind that have claws. I expected her to tell me to delete it. Instead, she read it carefully, then looked at me and said something that surprised me. If you're going to meet her, she said calmly, do it on your terms. Close that door properly. Now I was standing at the edge of a chapter one thought I'd already buried. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Pretend she was still invisible. But another part, the part about to build a new life, wondered if Lauren was right. Maybe the past needed one final sentence. Maybe the door needed to be slammed, not just closed. So I posted my story online. And thousands of strangers told me the same thing. If you're going to face her, don't do it alone. Don't let her rewrite history. Don't let her control the setting. That's when Lauren and I made a plan. And that plan would change everything. Lauren and I talked for hours that night. Not in a frantic way, but in the slow, deliberate way people talk when they're deciding how to protect their future instead of rehashing their past. She didn't tell me I owed Marissa anything. She didn't tell me to be the bigger person. She didn't minimize what had been done to me. Instead, she said something simple and devastatingly clear. She destroyed your life once. She doesn't get to touch it again. So we designed the meeting. I texted Marissa the next morning. I'll meet you. Tomorrow. 7 p.m. Harbor and Reed Lounge, downtown Briar Falls. Come alone. Harbor and Reed was perfect, upscale, public, bright, and completely disconnected from every place Marissa and I used to haunt together. No shared memories. No emotional shortcuts. What I didn't mention was that I wouldn't be alone. Lauren insisted on coming. Not to confront Marissa, but to exist. To be visible. To represent my present. I'm not there to argue, she told me calmly. I'm there because I'm your future. The next evening, we arrived early. Nate came too, along with my operations director, Marcus. We took a corner booth with a clear view of the entrance. No dark corners. No private whispers. At 7:03, Marissa walked in. For a second, I didn't recognize her. 6 years earlier, she had always looked polished, flawless hair, sharp clothes, expensive perfume. The woman who stepped into the lounge now looked worn around the edges. Still neat. Still trying. But like life had been sanding her down quietly for years. Her eyes found me. Then Lauren. Then Nate and Marcus. Her face tightened. She walked toward us slowly, clutching her purse like armor. Ryan, she said softly. You said you needed to talk, I replied evenly. So talk. This is Lauren, I added. My fiancée. Lauren nodded politely, no fake warmth, no hostility. Just calm certainty. Marissa's lips trembled. Could we talk alone? No, I said gently. Whatever you have to say, you can say here. She sat down. Tears formed instantly. I know what I did was unforgivable, she whispered. But I'm not here for vague apologies, I interrupted. You said everything isn't what I think it was. So tell me what you meant. She swallowed hard. Caleb and it wasn't supposed to. I raised my hand. Don't insult me. I walked in on you two in my bed the night before our wedding. That wasn't an accident. The tears came faster. You're right, she whispered. It wasn't the first time. It went on for 3 months. Lauren's eyes sharpened slightly. And what exactly did you come here for? She asked. Marissa looked at me like she was searching for the man she used to control. I've paid for it, she said. Caleb left me. I lost my job. Our friends took your side. My parents barely speak to me. I waited for satisfaction. I felt nothing. And what does that have to do with me? I asked quietly. Her voice cracked. I made a mistake. I've been in therapy. I needed you to know I'm sorry. Lauren leaned forward slightly, voice calm but surgical. You don't want closure, she said. You want absolution. Marissa flinched. Lauren continued, you want him to tell you you're not a bad person so you can stop feeling guilty. But that's not his job. I reached for Lauren's hand. And Marissa finally realized, she didn't have power here anymore. Marissa stared at Lauren like she had just been hit with a truth she wasn't prepared to hear. Then she looked back at me, really looked, like she was searching for something familiar in my face. Something she could still reach. Ryan, she whispered. Please. I took a slow breath. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel satisfied. I felt clear. You want me to say something that makes you feel less guilty, I said quietly. But I can't do that. Her lower lip trembled. What you did didn't just hurt me, I continued. It redirected my entire life. I left everything behind. I rebuilt from nothing. And the truth is, I'm better now than I ever would have been if that wedding had happened. Her face crumpled. So you're glad? She asked, almost desperately. No, I replied. I moved on. I leaned back slightly. I don't think about you. I don't replay the past. I don't carry anger. You're just not part of my world anymore. The words sounded cold, but they weren't cruel. They were factual. Her tears fell freely now. I just wanted closure, she said. Lauren's voice stayed calm but sharp. You got it, she said. This is it. I stood. Thank you for coming, I told Marissa honestly. I think I needed to see you one more time to realize how finished this really is. This is goodbye. Lauren stood beside me. Do not contact him again, she said firmly. Not for apologies. Not for explanations. Not for anything. Marissa nodded silently. We left her sitting there. The ride home was quiet. Lauren held my hand the whole way. How do you feel? She asked. Lighter, I admitted. Like I finally put something down I didn't realize I was still carrying. She smiled softly. Good. Now let's get married and never think about her again. I believed that was the end. It wasn't. About an hour after we got home, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I heard you met with Marissa. We should talk too. I need to explain. Caleb. I blocked it instantly. One ghost was already too many. 2 days later, my father called. We hadn't spoken in years, only awkward holiday texts and forced birthday messages. When I saw his name on my screen, my stomach tightened. I almost didn't answer. But Lauren was sitting beside me, and I didn't want her to think I was still running. Ryan, my father said. His voice sounded tired. Caleb told me you met with Marissa. He did. He's struggling, my father continued. He wants to apologize. Make things right before your wedding so the family can be there. I let out a short, humorless laugh. You're calling to defend the man who slept with my fiancée the night before my wedding. That was years ago, he sighed. People make mistakes. He's family. No, I said flatly. He stopped being family the moment he betrayed me. And you stopped being much of a father when you took his side. Silence stretched. I was trying to keep the family together, he said finally. By asking me to forgive the unforgivable, I replied. You made your choice. I made mine. There was more he wanted to say. I didn't let him. Do not call me again about Caleb. And do not come to my wedding. This conversation is over. Then I hung up. Lauren squeezed my hand gently. I'm proud of you, she whispered. But the past wasn't done trying to crawl back in. I thought the door was closed. Locked. Sealed. Buried. But the past doesn't always accept silence as an answer. 2 days after I cut my father out, my phone rang. It was Nate, my business partner, the same guy who'd helped me rebuild my life from bare floors and cheap coffee. His voice was tight. Ryan, he said, you need to hear this. What happened? She came to my office. I didn't have to ask who. My chest tightened instantly. Marissa? I said. Yeah, Nate replied. She showed up like she belonged here. Asked to talk privately. A familiar heat climbed into my throat. She told me she's worried about you, he continued. That she thinks you're rushing into marriage without processing your trauma. She actually suggested I convince you to postpone the wedding. I closed my eyes. It wasn't just invasive, it was manipulative. The kind of manipulation that pretends to be concern. I told her to leave, Nate added. And that if she didn't, I'd call security. When I told Lauren, something in her expression went still, not angry, not emotional. Focused. That night, she opened her laptop and made an executive decision. Lauren has connections. Real ones. The kind that come with letterhead that changes people's behavior instantly. She drafted a formal cease and desist letter and had it delivered to Marissa the very next day. The message was simple. Any further contact with Ryan, Lauren, or anyone in our professional or personal circle would be considered harassment and subject to legal action. Lauren didn't ask me first. When I asked her why, she said calmly. Because you're too kind. And she doesn't understand boundaries. I smiled and realized something very important. I married the right woman. The following morning, another message appeared. An email, long and self-righteous, from Caleb. He was engaged now, apparently. He wanted to clear the air before his own wedding. He spoke about growth and accountability. He mentioned that Marissa was not doing well mentally and asked if I could be compassionate. I forwarded the email to Lauren. She replied, "Want me to send him one too?" I told her to keep it ready. The wedding was 4 days away. 40 guests. Strict list. Private estate venue. Security briefed with names and photos. That night, Lauren and I went for a walk under quiet streetlights. Are you worried they'll try something dramatic? She asked. A little, I admitted. But we're prepared. She nodded calmly. They don't get access to your life anymore. The night before the wedding, my phone buzzed one final time. Unknown number. I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't respond. I deleted it. Because apologies without accountability are just noise. And tomorrow was no longer about the past. Tomorrow was about the life we built. The wedding day arrived quietly. No storms. No surprises. No ghosts standing in the doorway waiting to drag old memories into the sunlight. Just calm. The estate sat on the edge of Briar Falls, surrounded by tall trees and wide open sky. The kind of place where sound softens, where even laughter feels gentle instead of sharp. Lauren walked toward me in a simple ivory dress, sunlight catching in her hair. She didn't look like a bride from a magazine, she looked real. Grounded. Certain. And when she took my hands, everything else disappeared. No Marissa. No Caleb. No father. No past. Only her. Our guests were close friends, people who had seen me fall apart and rebuild: Nate, Marcus, old college friends, Lauren's parents and sister. People who actually wanted to be there. No forced smiles. No awkward silences. No pretending. During the reception, Nate raised a glass and said something that made half the room laugh and the other half go quiet. Ryan didn't just survive, he said. He rebuilt. From ashes into something stronger. Lauren's sister cried. I almost did. During our first dance, Lauren leaned in and whispered, "No regrets." I knew exactly what she meant. None, I whispered back. The honeymoon was short and quiet: a cabin in the mountains, snow on pine branches, slow mornings and warm coffee. It felt like breathing again after holding your lungs tight for years. When we came back, life didn't pause. Work piled up. Emails flooded in. Lauren spread legal files across the coffee table. Real life resumed. One night, I found her asleep on the couch, glasses crooked on her face, papers slipping off her lap. She was snoring softly, completely unbothered by being unposed and unperfect. And I realized something simple. This was home. I didn't hear from Marissa again. The cease and desist did its job. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard she moved back to her hometown. Her career had collapsed. She was working retail now, a hard landing from the life she once bragged about. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt distance. Caleb's engagement reportedly fell apart when his fiancée learned about the past. He lost his job at my father's company after a falling out. Last I heard, he moved 2 states away to start fresh. My father sent a congratulatory card. No apology. Just his signature. I threw it away. Someone told me he admitted he backed the wrong son. Too late. I don't wake up angry. I wake up grateful. Because I didn't stay in the ruins. I built something better. And the people who tried to break me no longer have access to my life. That's the real ending. Not revenge. Not closure. Freedom.